Today we'll just have a short discussion about Games Workshop's flying bases and the way that I feel the need to alter them every time I get my hands on one, so they're quite a lot easier to use. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, the strategy focused 40k channel, where we're talking about a bit of painting and modelling today. In general, Games Workshop's clear plastic flying bases aren't universally loved. If you glue them, they have a habit of snapping, and if you don't glue them, then they might have a habit of falling off the model. When I was newer to the hobby and I tended to glue everything, I certainly had a fair share of snapped off flying bases of various tanks and flying machines, and even if you leave them unglued, then it's quite annoying to move your models around, seeing as mine tend to fall off every time that I pick up part of the model. This applies to both their standard pin flying bases, or the newer ones that tend to have the ball on the end that fit into a socket. Here's my very rough diagram as to how these newer type bases work for the Inceptors. Basically you have a slightly curved flying base with a ball on the top of it, and it fits into a socket on the underside of the Inceptor's jump pack. I think that when Games Workshop contracted Satan to design these, they were thinking it might be a bit easier for posing the model, as you could have it at different angles, and I'm genuinely uncertain whether or not they were intending people to glue the models into place, or just leave them unglued and allow friction to keep them in place. In my experience, friction doesn't tend to do a very good job of this. Whenever I've seen people using them, it does tend to have a fair bit of fiddling to put them in the first place, and then can have a habit of dropping out as you move them across the table. I think you can remedy this somewhat by painting the inside of it to create just a little bit of a tighter fit, but I thought I'd go for a bit more of a proactive solution and try and fix them with magnets myself. This is my Space Marine Inceptor squad. At the moment I only have one, though I might be tempted to expand seeing as they got some decent points drops recently. If you take them off the flying stand, then they have magnets in place of the ball and socket joints. So far I've had absolutely no problems with the magnets breaking off, and it just means that getting them out of the box is really quite easy. They literally ping into place, and this size of magnets are strong enough to hold them at the right angle. There's no weird things about the Space Marines drooping or anything. Here's just a picture of where the magnets are attached at the underside of the Inceptor. I'm not saying that there's not other ways to do this, but the way that works for me is to use some Loctite superglue. I know that there's plenty of other good brands of superglue out there, but I know that this one works, so I stick with it. I quite like these mini trio ones because it means that they don't dry out quite so much, and I also tend to get this PowerFlex version, which is a bit different to the standard version because it means that whenever you put something just lightly on the surface, it pretty much instantly adheres to it. You don't have to hold it in place anywhere near as much as the standard superglue, which is just quite good for modelling purposes, particularly with magnets, which are quite easily disturbed and knocked off surfaces. The size of magnets that I used are these 6x2mm neodymium magnets, easily obtainable off the internet normally. I usually get mine from eBay, and if you're trying to mount them into a surface, like you can on the underside of the Inceptor, then a 6mm drill bit can help. I didn't need any drill with this, just literally twizzled it to create a little indentation. For a lot of flying bases though, particularly things like jet bikes and things, you could just literally stick the magnet to the underside of the model on somewhere flat. When it's on the table, it's really not obvious that you've just got a little bit of a magnet sticking out on the underside. It's not where people are going to be looking. From there it's a fairly simple matter of snipping off the ball at the top of the magnet pole, dabbing on a bit of super glue and mounting the magnet in its place, being sure to double check the polarity each time that you do this, just to make sure that all your magnets line up, as you don't want them repelling, and if you mount them all the same way then it means that you can mix and match between the flying bases without having to think about it. I know it's hardly the most complicated thing in the world, but I just thought I'd share for anyone who has been having trouble with Games Workshop flying bases. It does take a little bit more upfront time and effort, but I think that the result is worth it, if you do think that you'll be using these miniatures for some time to come. If anyone else has any other good ways of fixing flying bases and making them a little bit more user-friendly, then please let me know down in the comments below. I'm sure there's plenty of other ways of achieving the same thing, and also the ball and socket joints might work a little bit better on certain models, so it's certainly by no means mandatory. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where we're usually more of a 40k tactics theme, but I do like to break it up and mix it around with some different topics from time to time. If you'd like to help support the channel, I'd just like to mention that I do have an Element Games affiliate link down in the video description below. If you were thinking about buying any model soldiers in the future, and you happen to live in the UK or Europe, if you click the link in the video description and order through there, a very small amount of the money goes to help support Auspex Tactics without costing you any more whatsoever. They have a decent discount on Games Workshop products and are fairly reliable in my experience, so if you were thinking about ordering in any models in the near future, then it can just be a way to help support the channel on purchases that you might have made anyway. I also have a very similar link for Amazon in the USA and Canada. Again, if you click the link, then any purchases made on the Amazon link also give a little bit to support Auspex Tactics, so if you were thinking about buying anything off Amazon in the near future, then please consider that. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.